So back in November of 2020, I invested into the L mount system, and I wanted to have one lens that would do it all for the most of it when I first started out. Something that I really hated about my Sony system is I had loads of primes for it, which meant I was constantly switching out lenses. It was just getting in the way and it was annoying me because I just wanted to be quick and I wanted to be efficient. So that's why I got, can you see that? That's why I got the 24-105 f4. So today in this video we're going to be talking about whether the 24-105 lives up to its name and its reputation of being an extremely versatile lens. Sweet. By the way, if you're watching this and thinking what the hell is he wearing, I've not been attacked by moths. This was a Styler t-shirt. I thought it looked cool when I bought it, but apparently no one else does, so yeah, it just got holes in. I'm not homeless, I promise. So let me just start off by saying that I shoot a variety of both photo and video work. So for me, it was really important to find a lens that was good at both. Now, when it comes to sharpness and vignetting and all that sort of stuff, I don't really care. Vignetting you can fix in post, and sharpness, to be honest, the sharpest lenses are nice, but then again, sometimes having a slightly softer look for video looks nicer in my opinion. So having a slight degradation in sharpness that you would get from a zoom lens doesn't really matter too much to me. It's more so about the usability and how versatile the lens is. At least that's what I was going for when buying the first lens for this system. So first of all, let's talk about this lens for photography. Let me just preface this by saying I came from a crop sensor life. So before this, I was using crop sensor cameras, and in crop sensor land, full frame f4 is equivalent to 2.8. So that means that the f4 on this lens, I'm actually quite okay with. For me, the subject separation is actually quite pleasing, and I haven't really found that too limiting, to be honest, especially since the Panasonic S5 is so good in low light, and the dual IS between the two means that I can stop down the shutter speed to slower speeds and still get sharp images. So the f4 for me is not really a deal breaker at all. The focal range of 24-105 is actually really handy for me too. I find that a 24mm focal length is wide enough for what I do, and that 105mm is absolutely fantastic in terms of compression for portraits and product stuff. The 24-105 also has macro capabilities, which means that you can focus really close to the subject, which has actually made this quite interesting when it comes to using that 105mm reach, but also getting quite close to what I'm photographing. And it's definitely a feature that is welcomed for this lens and makes it a lot more versatile than I expected it to be. The sharpness coming out of this lens through the focal range is actually really pleasing to me. Of course, it might not be as razor sharp as some of the primes that are in the L mount system, but for most of my needs, I'd say it's perfectly sharp enough. I've never looked at any image that I've made with this camera and thought, that looks a bit soft. So for me, sharpness is absolutely fine. I know that people say that when you use zooms, you get a slight degradation in sharpness for the cost of having something that's a lot more versatile, but for me, I've not really found that to be an issue at all. So that's a massive plus for me in this lens. The colors coming out of this lens I think are really, really nice as well. I mean, of course, colors are also down to the sensor you're using, the camera you're using and stuff, but of course the lens can actually have quite a big impact on the color shift that you get from a camera. And I've got to say, I find that this lens is quite neutral. I haven't seen any weird green or magenta shifts from this lens, which is actually quite nice, and it makes it a lot easier when I'm going in and editing my photos. So now talk about the 24-105 lens for video work. Now for me, I genuinely think that this is such an amazing lens for video production, and I found it extremely fun to use. And the 24-105 focal range is really useful because it means that you can get the really wide establishing shots and also the close-up detail shots really quickly and really easily, which is really nice. Although it is a focus by a wire lens, I find it's actually quite easy to acquire focus, and the focus ring is actually quite smooth and easy to use, which is really good. Carrying on the topic of focus, the focus breathing on this lens is minimal, which is really good. If you're unaware of what focus breathing is, it's essentially when you're trying to acquire focus, it's like this illusion that the lens is sort of zooming in or zooming out slightly, and this lens performs really well when it comes to that sort of phenomenon, so there's hardly any focus breathing like I've seen in my tests. This lens is also parfocal, which is something I've really enjoyed whilst using this for video production. If you're unaware what parfocal means, it means that let's say you try and lock focus on a subject at the wider end and then you zoom into the more telephoto end, the focus will stay locked and it'll stay acquired, of course, if you're using manual focus. Now this is extremely useful for when you want to zoom in whilst you're filming, because then you don't have to go ahead and refocus your shot, which is really nice, and it's definitely something which makes this a really, really good option for video shooting. Overall, I think the build quality of lens is actually pretty good. It is a tough plastic, so it's not metal construction, but what that means is that it's actually lighter for you as well. So that means that if you're using this lens for an extended period of time throughout the day or throughout a shoot, you're not going to feel it too much when you're carrying it around. So that's really nice, and to be honest, I do think it's built to last. I do think it's built pretty well. So to wrap up and say my final thoughts about this lens, I'm definitely happy I picked this one over the other options for the L mount that are available on the market, especially since this is going to be my first lens to get on this system. I've shot a variety of things already with this lens, like food photography, car photography, loads of projects like music videos, corporate shoots, commercials, etc. And this was literally the only lens I was using, and I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I genuinely felt like I could do everything that I wanted to do with this one lens, which of course makes it so much easier because I don't have to keep on changing lenses, tearing down the kit and all that sort of stuff. If you are someone that's just getting into the L mount system, or you're already in the L mount system but want something that's versatile for a variety of different things that you're planning on shooting, and you haven't got the 24-105 for some strange reason, then you definitely need to check out this lens. It's quite affordable. I think for brand new it's about £1,200, and for a full frame lens of this sort of focal range and with a constant aperture, it's actually quite affordable, I think, especially when you compare it to the other lenses in the L mount system, because the L mount is bloody expensive. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining or useful for you, and if you did, then I'd really appreciate it if you could consider subscribing to the channel, and hopefully I shall see you in the next one. Thank you.